plan as it is, as written. Yes, we could, it's impossible to argue with your logic, Gigi, in that, yes, if we go masks, that is the safest bet. But the problem is, as Nate alluded to, on the other side of the coin is an unquantifiable effect on the kids, which is the social and emotional learning. And it's the most frustrating argument to have because we haven't done any research and I don't have the numbers to make that argument, right? But I know there's an impact to the children. Also, I know that Deerfield has had 0 cases. I mean, popped up with one more case, I think it was yesterday, I've been watching the numbers. And at this point, I'm comfortable saying, let's look at the numbers. Is it a reactive strategy? Absolutely, I'm not gonna argue that. But we also have to look at the fact that COVID could be here for another 4 or 5 years. And if this is the stance we take right now of, an ounce of prevention, and we leave our kids in masks, I don't see, yes, is there danger around us? Absolutely. Is it at our door? I don't believe so. I like giving the administration the ability to pivot quickly and then, make that short-term decision. I'm not sure how the motion would read quite yet, but basically say, if we start seeing a rise in cases, administration has the ability to say, this class needs to go. Just like we said, if we need to isolate classrooms last year and send them into remote, they have the ability to do that. So that's personally where I'm at.
Okay. Andy?
I think my perspective echoes on what Jeff just shared. I think as I had read the return to school plan, the nurse will be consulted in all decisions between the superintendent, the building administration, and the board. And I think that I support the back-to-school plan as it is written right now. Also, since this is a community that we all live in, from my point of view, I received less than 10 emails on this subject. So obviously making a decision based on what I've read, what we've talked about as a board, and also trying to make a decision based on what those community members who have contacted me and the rest of the board have said. I guess, as I've already said, I will and plan to support the plan as it's written.
Okay. So we have differing opinions amongst the board. We have differing opinions amongst the community. I think it's important to recognize that regardless of the outcome of this discussion, we are all looking to see what we believe is the best interests of the community, the kids, and the staff. For every email and conversation we've had supporting the usage of masks or making them optional, we've had an email or a conversation supporting not using masks. And I think it's important to recognize that everybody's argument is valid and everybody has a pertinent point through their own optics. So as we sit here as board members, we aren't afforded the ability to look just through our own optics. We have to make decisions kind of in a much more open perspective. If the board doesn't have more questions, I think it might be appropriate at this point to hear citizens' comments prior to taking any action on this. Nate, if you want to interject beforehand.
I was going to make a motion, but I can wait.
Andy and Jeff, are you comfortable with opening up citizens' comments prior to acting on this?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so at this point, I'll call it slightly out of order, but I will open the floor for public comments. And I remind everybody that public comments is an opportunity for you to direct comments at us. It's not going to be a conversation back and forth, so please understand that we are not going to answer questions at this point. It is simply an opportunity for you to express your opinion to us here at this meeting. We try to keep comments from any individual to 2 minutes in an effort to keep the meeting moving along. And please just recognize that we are all neighbors and we all live in the same community. We're all interested in doing the best thing for all of our kids, our families, our students. If you would like to talk, we'll ask you to give us your name, where you're from, so that we can accurately capture it in the minutes. And I would invite anybody that has any feedback for us or any comments to please raise your hand and I'll work my way around the room. Go ahead, sir.
I would just like it to be noted,
Can we get your name for the minutes?
my name is Carl Eckberg. I live at 4 Farm Road in Deerfield, New Hampshire, obviously. So I would just like it to be noted, my wife and I came here at 5:30. We thought that's when the meeting began. The 2 members of the board currently wearing masks walked into the building and interacted with individuals without masks on. So if you're gonna ask me to muzzle my 6-year-old son, how about you muzzle yourself? Thank you.
Folks, if this turns into a circus, we're gonna move on. So please.
It's an accurate statement.
No, I'll be applauding and everything else isn't necessary, sir. Please have your opinions, but try and keep it civil. Does anybody else have a comment? Go ahead.
I'm Daniel Palmer, 24 Range Road, Deerfield. I also have a young child in school who is not able to be vaccinated. My biggest concern, and I hear everyone's concerned about the emotional well-being of children being asked, and I totally get that. I'm actually a clinical psychologist who works with children quite a bit. The most emotional impact that I have seen from children has been the isolation from quarantine, from being pulled out of school. I just feel if we don't look at asking our children, we are risking them being isolated from their friends because of cases increasing, and to me, that is more dangerous and damaging to them. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Cooper, North Road, Deerfield. Just going off of the information that was sent out as far as the opening plan, I mean, everywhere in there it says that we're gonna defer to the guidance of all these facilities that are best suited to make these decisions. And yes, we have to look locally, but this virus doesn't care about imaginary boundaries that we set. If we look in our worldview, I promise you, someone here knows someone that travels to a different town or a different state. The CDC universally recommends mask wearers. Even if you take it locally, you look at what the universal best practice plan was for the economic reopening in New Hampshire, it's mitigation efforts layered on top of each other. Shared responsibilities, vaccines. If you look at our kids, K through 6, you can be generous saying all of 7 and 8, they don't qualify for vaccines. So you're leaving them with no mitigation factors. We're also picking and choosing when we're following because we say, hey, we looked at the studies and it says that it doesn't hold on to surface as much as we thought. So we're gonna go ahead and pull back on our cleaning. Makes sense. But those same studies say wear a mask, wear a mask. We're gonna pull back on that as well. We're gonna pull back on social distancing. We're gonna pull back on everything and hope. I'm a much more, proponent of being proactive versus reactive. And no matter where I look, it says wear a mask. Kids, every teacher that I talked to last year said kids adapt to this like it's nothing. It's the parents that have a bigger problem with it because we're not accustomed to it. As far as emotional well-being, I mean, we're trying to set our kids up for the future, and there's a ton of us that have gone to school virtually when we were taking college classes. This is not a new thing for us. It's new for the children. So let's show them what to do. Let's be role models for it. And the New Hampshire Department of Education guidance says we can't segregate off of vaccine status. It doesn't say off of age. Even if we want to have a more flexible plan, 11 and under, mask mandate. 12 and up, make it optional. At least at that point in time, the large percentage that aren't even vaccine eligible have some mitigating factors involved. Because right now it's a hope and a prayer. And it's not about muzzling our kids, it's about doing the right thing.
Really?
And if it means putting, yeah, really.
So
If it means putting a mask on,
hey, this
it's
isn't
not
about
that hard. And the science says that if you're in a small group of vaccinated individuals or people that you know, and not in a large group within 3 to 6 feet of each other, you don't need a mask. So if someone decides to walk in without a mask, that's one thing. Also, the New Hampshire Department of Education guidance says that visitors to a school should be wearing a mask because you don't know where they're at in the community. So right now, we're turning everything off under the sun. Visitors show up, screening's gonna start at home. There's absolutely nothing that the school's doing right now to help protect the children, other than saying if something happens, we'll look at it. I just think we need to go in, masks not being optional, or if you make it optional, based off of the age. And then once vaccines are eligible for 12 and under, give a 2-week period to give time for the parents to get a shot. and circle back from there. I can at least make sense of that if we were all vaccine eligible. But right now, a large population aren't, and we're just saying we'll figure it out.
So where were you in flu season?
I'm sorry?
Sir,
Where were you in flu
Sir.
season?
I was monitoring all the low cases because masks work.
gentlemen, please, we're not gonna have the back and forth. I've seen too many other school board meetings go the wrong way. I'm not having it.
Well, he thinks he has a right to do something
Sir.
for a child,
Sir.
which he doesn't.
Sir, please,
All right?
I'm asking you to
It's personal.
be respectful. Anybody else have any comments for us? Go ahead, sir. Please give your name for the record.
Tim Oljay, 156 Mountain Road. I think we need choice. Us as Americans can make our own choice in what we decide. If you feel unsafe and you want to mask your children, and we're doing optional masks, and you don't feel safe around children that aren't masked, you need to keep them home. Same goes the other way around. If it's masked like it was last year, I kept my child home. So it goes both ways. We need choice. That's what we need, choice. Everybody can make their own decision. We don't need people making a decision or making anything mandated on everybody. Everybody's different. Everybody gets a choice.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Kevin, I'm gonna say hello.
Kevin McCarron, Kevin Verbal, McCarron Road. I want to start on a different thing though. I'd asked the board during the last meeting to reach out to Candia about potentially tuitioning instead of increasing the size of the building to see if there are synergies there. I was wondering if the board has done anything with that.
We're not answering questions tonight, Kevin.
I'll just take it as a no. But to get on to vaccines, you know, it's an interesting thing because a lot of people like to talk about the vaccine as being a panacea, right? But it's not a panacea. If you're vaccinated, quote unquote fully vaccinated, you can still contract, carry, and transmit COVID-19 to non-vaccinated as well as vaccinated people. All it does is likely reduces the symptoms should you contract after being vaccinated. The vaccine has been in popular use for less than 6 months, and now we're already hearing of a requirement for booster shots in the next few months of 2 out of the 3 US used vaccines. So whether these kids are vaccinated or not is a bit of, how many cases do we not know about is what Member Oxnard asked about. Well, okay, how many kids have been asymptomatic and have had COVID in this building? For all that you know, half or more of those kids have had COVID, been asymptomatic, and carry antibodies and are at low to no risk, right? So, I get err on the side of caution, but you have to be sort of reasonable. To me, putting people under masks all day, every day in school at this point is unreasonable. When we started all this, it was to flatten the curve. It was to stop runs on hospitals. It was to make sure that we had enough emergency room bed space, right? And now the whole thing is shifted to cases, to people that have tested positive. Not how many people are in the hospital, not how many, God forbid, are passing away from it. And most of the people that are old and have comorbidities, right? So the goalpost just keeps moving and moving and moving. Maybe herd immunity is the only way out, and maybe the vaccine isn't the way to get to herd immunity. That's what the numbers look like to me. I'm not an epidemiologist, but I read too. So maybe if we stop isolating every time one kid tests positive, we isolate everybody. Maybe we just keep an eye on hospitalization rates, et cetera, and make informed decisions then. I would encourage the board not to bring a mask mandate back into the school to start school. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so I'm gonna close the citizens' comments if there isn't any other comments. We're gonna proceed with our discussion regarding the school reopening plan. I do have a question, and it was actually generated by a comment from one of the members in the public. Last year, we had the building was closed to visitors, so it was staff and students only inside the building. Is that the current plan?
I haven't asked Mrs. Withy or Mr. Green about that. What were you thinking about visitors for this year? Have you thought about that yet?
We've just been waiting to find out what's the plan is. It's been asked a few times and I just,
I mean, if you want my personal opinion, I'll give it to you, but not necessarily what
Well,
we as.
I think we're asking for your personal opinion in this case.
I would say, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably easier to mitigate the situation if we didn't have visitors in the building. I think it's just, there's so many factors that go into it, and there's just a lot of moving parts when you start having people in the building.
I had a question for you guys. You know, the things have changed a good bit since our last board meeting in terms of cases going up, in terms of hospitalization of children, in terms of those things. And I was wondering if you have any sense, has the staff's opinion changed of the support of the plan? Have you heard from the staff?
not a lot. I think they're just, they don't wanna necessarily be part of the decision. They would just want us to, they'll do what they're asked to do. And, they haven't really weighed in on, and they had the opportunity to do so just as everybody else did, so. We did have one teacher reach out that works with very young students that felt, because they were gonna be so close to each other, it was hard to not have them be, they're just in each other's spaces all the time, that perhaps our littlest kids need to be masked up, but that was the only feedback we got.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Nick.
Make a motion?
Yes, but just to make sure, Jeff and Andy, I don't like you not being in the room, gentlemen. Can you both hear?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Nate, go ahead.
I'm not sure the best way to do this, so what I was looking at was the language in the plan, and I'm looking at the first paragraph underneath the heading 2021-2022 school year. And the paragraph starts, "It is the intention of the Deerfield School District to return to pre-pandemic." So I'm proposing, my motion would be a change to that paragraph. And I can,
So I think from a,
I'm just gonna read the paragraph.
Nate,
Yeah.
from a housekeeping standpoint, is it better to move the plan and then make an amendment to the language in the plan? So you put the plan up for discussion and we would amend the plan, right? Does that make sense? Patty, you agree
I don't
with
think
that?
it matters either way.
Okay, well, in that case, roll the direction you're going.
All right, so, my new paragraph reads this: "It is the intention of the Deerfield School District to return to a pre-pandemic model of instruction as allowed by community spread of COVID. This means that DCS will return to in-person learning and that masks will be optional as long as community transmission, i.e. Rockingham County, is rated as minimal or moderate by NHDHHS. If community transmission is substantial, then masks will be required inside DCS. Additionally, the CDC currently requires that masks are worn on all public transportation to include school buses."
So we have a motion and language, we would need a second to continue discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Andy and Jeff, did you capture that or did you hear that?
Yes, I have a quick clarifying question, if I could jump in. This is Jeff.
I think Nate was gonna just add to that real quickly, Jeff, before you jump in.
Okay.
Go ahead, Nate.
The language in here is, like I was saying earlier, in line with that, but it's also, like we were saying, preventative. I know that there's sort of an approach or a perspective on this that says that, sure, there's not that many people dying, and those that are have comorbidities or whatever, and so it's okay to sort of just let them, and not people aren't necessarily saying that, but that is the message that I think is being sent, is that some people are expendable, as opposed to taking a proactive approach and preventing things that are perfectly not easily, but reduced right now. And if we take these proactive steps, is there some discomfort in our kids? Yeah, maybe. Are they adaptable? Yes, I think they are. And I think that these steps, if they can prevent deaths Maybe our kids aren't gonna be the ones that die, but maybe they bring them home to their grandparents or some older family members. And if we can't see the symptoms in our students, then maybe it's more likely to carry, so that's what I want to avoid. You know, I would love to avoid deaths in our school as well, but the hospitalization and the deaths of family members who are elderly, who do have comorbidities, I don't think they're expendable, and I think that these steps taken now, when we're seeing highly universal substantial transmission, I think are worth taking. Jeff can move on to this question, thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So, I guess a few things. One, with that argument, I would say that those people that are at risk of being exposed from their grandchildren, etc., are all able to be vaccinated and, you know, experience much lower severity of symptoms. So I hear your argument, but I also say it doesn't fly with me. The question I had, the clarifying question is on the substantial transmission. As I understand it, I don't have all the documents in front of me right now, but currently Rockingham County is listed as substantial, and under Nate's amendment, therefore we would be required to have all students wear masks.
Correct.
Thank you.
TJ, go ahead.
Can I just,
Oh.
for 1 second, I'm sorry, someone contacted us that this live stream is not working, so I don't know if you have any control over that, but I just wanted to
So,
put that up there.
Brooke has fixed it and it's been reposted on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
It was emailed, I can send it as a one call now, is it somebody that's,
If you could, person would probably get the one call.
okay,
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
it's okay, I have to go to use my desktop, so, because my,
Oh, yeah, sure.
okay.
I'll take notes for you. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm sure this is gonna be going on for a few more minutes. Go ahead, Gigi, I'm sorry.
Well, I guess I have a tendency to try to look at it more. I understand that there is a mentality that we are to look at the pandemic in a very, very local manner. But unfortunately, what it does is it does not play out in a very local manner. For instance, the nursing home that my partner's mother is in simply just now put in new pieces where she cannot leave the nursing home unless she goes and has to quarantine for 10 days. And so the ramifications, I think it just behooves all of us to really try to look at this in a more communal way, as opposed to it's just about Deerfield, or it's just about us. We also understand in the science that the more cases there are, the more the virus has the option, as viruses do, to mutate. And the more that those mutations have the ability to be more virulent. So I'm just hoping that, to appeal to people that, yes, is the mask a pain in the ass? Yes, for the students, but the things that we could accomplish, if I think that we could accomplish in the future, not having to close school, go to remote learning, keep our teachers healthy as well, I think that that's really why, I went back and forth. It wasn't like, oh no, I'm just all about masks. I voted 2 weeks ago and was supportive of the plan because it made sense to me. Masks were optional. And we said if things started to change, and they have changed. The cases are continuing to rise. I don't see any evidence that the cases will not continue to rise right now. So in my mind, it seems to be two things. It's proactive for our school and the health and safety of all of us in Deerfield, but it also, I think, is proactive and helpful to us as a larger and broader community. And that's why I'm just, committed to trying to support students in making the best situation and teachers they can being masked.
Andy and Jeff, Do you have any additional feedback? If not, we're gonna vote on the motion to amend the language of the plan.
Jeff has no one.
I'm gonna let Andy go first, Jeff, because I think I heard.
I just had one clarification I wanted to make, because I was having a hard time with the audio. And it's probably gonna be an exact repeat of what Jeff said, but is the intent of the amendment to, because of the situation that Rockingham is in, is the effect of the policy or the change that we would start the school year off with that? Is that my understanding of what's been proposed?
I believe that would be the case.
Okay.
Jeff?
All I said was I had no further.
Okay, so in that case, if Nate and Gigi are set, we're gonna vote on the amendment to the language in the plan. This is just on the amendment. All in favor of the proposed language change, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
2-2, that means it fails, right?
You can vote.
Okay, so nay, so 3-2. Okay, so the,
Is that a 2-2?
what's that 3-2?
Oh, 3-2.
Yeah,
3-2, nay.
2, yeah,
2-3.
the motion fails.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, I would like to consider, based on the response that we got to the question, closing the facility to visitors, so it would just be staff and students, similar to the policy we had last year. So I would seek to add language to the plan. How do you go, I need to specify a location again, or
I
just?
can work on that for you.
Okay, so I would just seek to add language to the plan to close the facility to staff and students in a model similar to what we had last year. So
Second.
a motion by myself, seconded by Jeff, I believe that was you I heard.
Correct.
So I will start by saying, although at the moment, I would like to see us return without masks, I will be the first one to make a motion to change as soon as it becomes apparent that it is in the best interest of the community. So I want to add any other layer of mitigation that I can to try to keep us from getting to that point. So that's why I'm proposing the tweak to the plan. Any additional comments from the board members? Seeing none, so we will be voting on the additional language of the plan to close the facility to anybody other than staff and students. Gigi, you got it?
I just had a clarifying question, because I wasn't sure, I did receive an email that only went just to me. I wasn't sure if it should go during public comments, or if I should wait until we get to,
We can do it during the correspondence review.
okay, because I was gonna read that into the record.
Okay, let's do that during the review, if that's okay?
Yep.
All right, so look for a vote on the change to the plan regarding closing the campus service. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Gentlemen on the computer?
Jeff, yes.
Andy?
Aye.
Probably not. So that language will be added to the plan. So any other potential changes from board members to the plan? Patty, go ahead.
I just wanted to put out there that we did recommend giving us discretion in between board meetings, and that's not currently in. So
Okay.
if no one's interested in doing that, that's fine, I just wanted to put out there that that would be a change.
I would like to make a motion that we leave the discretion to the DCS administration
Second.
to mandate masks if deemed necessary.
Okay, so we have a motion by Jeff Kelly, a second by Nate Oxnard. I will comment on that I don't want the burden to be placed specifically on the administration. So I would ask that we still try to hold a meeting as soon as prudent, so that we can support whatever decisions need to be made by the administration. I think, the community may bear a heavy opinion on, well, they're gonna bear an opinion on any decision we make, but I most certainly don't wanna leave our administration up to that.
Yeah, but I don't want their hands to be tied if tomorrow they wanna make this choice and we can't meet for 2 weeks.
I'm not necessarily, we can call a meeting within, 48 hours or 72 hours pretty easily. What, I guess my thought process in this is we're in this together, and I most certainly want our administrators to have the flexibility necessary, but I don't want them to have to do it alone.
I agree with that, but I would still vote for the motion, so.
If I could speak real quick.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So I think it's an important tool to give them. That I agree with you that, right, masks are very clearly a divisive issue. And I don't want, I wouldn't wish this burden on anyone. But giving them that tool and the option, if they see so fit, because of, if the nurse notices a huge uptick in cases, let's give them the tool. They don't have to use it. Yeah, I'm happy to shoulder that burden as a board member. We can convene a meeting, it's 40 to 72 hours. But I think that they're asking for the option, and I'm happy to give them that resource if they so need it.
Okay. Any other discussion regarding the additional amendment?
I kind of feel the same way as you, Zach, probably. I want them to have the flexibility to do that, but I also don't want them to have to hang out to.
I'm not interested in hanging the staff or the administration out to dry or
Yeah.
anything.
So I don't really know how to remedy that, but.
I fully
Have a
support
quick
giving the
meeting.
administration the flexibility, but again, if we have a meeting coming up in 2 days' time, that's one thing, but if this was to occur the day after a meeting, I think it may not be a bad idea for us to come and talk about it, but we can also, Patty and I talk with enough frequency where if it seems like it's prudent, Patty, we can all gather around it again.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna vote on the additional amendment to the plan, which would be to give the administration discretion to require masks if deemed necessary without board's approval temporarily. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes.
Does that work, Patty? Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff? Andy?
Okay?
So that is 4-1, so that will be added to the plan. Okay. Any additional amendments to the proposed plan from the board prior to acting on the plan as amended? I think I captured that correctly. I'm not seeing any, so that being the case, I will look for a motion to approve the amended plan.
So moved.
Jeff? Nate beat you on the motion, but I'll give you the second, Jeff, if you'd like.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that is moved by Nate, seconded by Jeff Kelly. Additional discussion regarding the plan as amended this evening. Okay. Seeing none, I'm gonna look for a vote to approve the amended plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Nate,
Jeff? Andy? Andy?
Sorry about that, we're voting on the plan with the amendment.
The plan as amended, with the two amendments we've made.
Aye.
So that, and aye, so that is going to be a 4-1 vote. The plan as amended will carry tonight. Okay. Anything else before we move on from the board or the administration?
Okay, so, okay,
I just won.
By the way, I'm focused on the screen and the other board members, so
no, you're fine.
please.
So, what this does is, our open house is not an open house, it's a barbecue, and we'll have to create, areas on the campus where parents can meet their child's teacher. So.
What was that information?
You didn't think of it.
8 minutes ago, what was that information? I was going on your recommendation.
You were, I gave you my recommendation, but this changes, the open house policy,
Okay.
so,
I would think if the board passed the motion, so I would think that the board could make a motion for a one-time exception for the,
We can,
if you
ultimately,
chose to.
we can go as hog wild as we want here.
again, we could also just, like I said, we can create a map, do a one call now, this teacher's over here, this teacher's here, this teacher's here, and the meet and greet.
And do it outside?
And do it outside.
Anybody seen the weather for Monday?
I'm looking at it now, it says partly sunny, small chance of showers.
That'll change 6 times between now and then.
Yeah.
So, why don't we do this? Let's make, not a motion yet, but let's make every effort to hold the open house outside. And I would grant flexibility to the administration if they need to waiver due to highly inclement weather, but if we have highly inclement weather, we may not want to stand outside cooking anyway, so we come up with a plan B. Is that reasonable? No? Anybody?
Yeah, real quick, if I could just chime in, Zach.
Yes.
I think, obviously, everything is optics these days, right? And so we said no guests in the school, but then, we still want to have the barbecue. And I think it's important to note that I'm still comfortable having the barbecue, given the very low number of cases we have in Deerfield right now, in that it's a one-time event versus a entire school year of guests and visitors coming and going from the building, right? It's all, calculated risk, and there is risk in having an event, but given where we're at, I'm comfortable with it as it stands.
All right, so then, do we just want to ask that we have the open house outside, or are you guys make it work? Does it work? Yeah,
I think let's follow our policy unless somebody wants to change it.
Randy, Jeff, cool with that?
Yes.
Okay, that work? All right. Anything else, Ben?
We have facilities for people to use.
We can call and get some porta potties delivered and set up.
We can have facilities. Okay?
Call like tomorrow, they are backed up days and days getting them onto sites.
Ton of irony in that statement, Jeff.
We have done in the past one way in to use the bathroom, one way out. We've done stuff like that in the past. If it, it's not like they're all congregating, that if the board feels comfortable with that, we could do something like that.
Fine with that. It's isolated and we can most certainly, would be no different than having to have our board meetings. Nate, you?
I don't know. I feel badly, because I'm in my teacher meeting, so I know what they've all done. I know how they've prepared their classrooms, So I'm thinking if the people have their mask on, if they could come in the building and bring your
I'm not
kids in.
necessarily, it's not opening up the classrooms, it would be, if we can't get porta potties for whatever reason, it would be an entrance in into the bathroom and then.
Yeah. No, we made a policy, no visitors, so I just feel badly that it's gonna have a huge impact on what teachers have already prepared.
I think a lot of teachers are gonna be happy to have kids back. And where they would be going. And so, not showing the parents, not having the parents come in the classroom, but having the kids 2 days later, I think it's
They'll be happy, but they'll also be pissed that they spent the weekend in totally decorate, have little, things ready for, it's, I'm sorry.
I will
I'm
encourage
just-
them to do what they can outside.
Yeah.
I'll encourage them to maybe take some pictures and have a slide presentation. I mean, our teachers get very creative when it comes to
I
stuff
know
like
they're
this.
gonna rock it, cause that's what they
That's
do.
what they do.
I'm just,
I know,
projecting,
I know.
Good news is,
and I won't own it.
no matter what I do tonight, I'm gonna be yelled at when I get home.
You will.
I will, so
You
probably
live
get
with the
yelled,
teacher.
I'm probably getting yelled at right now through the screen.
You may be.
All right,
Can,
go ahead, Jeff.
I apologize if I missed something, but, so we're currently going to allow visitors into the building if needed for the facilities, or no?
It would be specifically for the facilities if we're unable to get, temporary restroom set up.
And previously, were teachers allowed, so 2 hours ago, Kristen and Brian, were teachers planning on giving parents tours of the classroom?
Yep, yep.
Yes.
They do know, I've been very clear with the information that I've sent out, that anything could change at a moment's notice, and that we would keep them as informed as possible.
I would like to make a motion that we make an exception to our no visitor policy on August 23rd to allow masked visitors in the building, masked parents in the building to view their students' classrooms if the teacher so desire.
Ask parents and children, or just.
Is that, masked visitors, Jeff, or masked parents?
Masked parents.
What about the students?
What about the unmasked parents? Is the teacher gonna be in two places at once?
Yeah.
Sorry, he doesn't have the second list.
All right, does Jeff have a second? I don't see a second, Jeff, so we're gonna let it go.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, or are we gonna move on? All right, we're gonna move on, folks. We've already satisfied all the comments. Patty, was there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, we have a non-public under B and C.
See, and I have any other agenda items, Nate?
Can I add informational or communication about high school?
Put you in for informational, if that works?
Yes, that'd be great, thank you.
Okay. Any other agenda items? None, we'll move on to, we have one consent item, is that gonna be accurate?
Probably after non-public, yes.
Right, we'll drag that over. Review of correspondence, we did receive a number of emails. The ones that I received were uploaded to Patty to be placed in the drive, so the board members all have an opportunity to see emails that we get. Patty,
Those that came in this afternoon,
There was a couple
Kathy
that-
probably didn't get to
there was
those
a
yet.
couple that came late today that may not have made it in, but, I'll repeat again, the emails that we received, over the last couple of weeks have been primarily regarding our reopening plan and have revolved, around feelings regarding masks, being optional, having masks, not having masks, and have been divided fairly evenly. So obviously, the board has already discussed a lot of that, and we've had our discussions around masks. So to that extent, I think we've all clearly heard and are empathetic to the community members on both sides of the spectrum. And I'm gonna allow any of the other board members to add if Gigi has something that she wants to read in.
Yeah, I would like, this person who wrote in, I'll say what she had said. My daughter is starting 4th grade next week. I wanted to let you know that I totally support wearing masks in school if it is appropriate. I'm concerned about the new variants and with the smaller kiddos not able to be vaccinated yet. I worry she might get sick from being at school, especially in this town and what I see people posting online. I see on Facebook today that the anti-mask people are gearing up to save the kids and allow them to breathe again at the school board meeting. I wanted to let you know that there are people out in town that would have no issue with having kids wearing masks, and my daughter has no issue wearing a mask either. She actually puts it on early while waiting for the bus because it keeps her face warm. She even forgets now that she's wearing one and keeps it on in the car sometimes. I think school is very important for the kids to be at, and I hope we can do safely, at least until we get the entire school population access to a vaccine. Thanks for listening. And then, this is from, Jill Harris.
Any other comments regarding that?
Directly to I just wanted to be, like, I don't know what to do with the single ones that don't go to all of us, so I just figured, alright.
Fair enough. Alright, we have, no other correspondence necessarily reviewed, there wasn't anything that wasn't mass related, that I recall. So it is now, we are going to move on to what I suspect will be another interesting discussion, which will be with transportation and our bus routing. I see our friend Kelly back there. Kelly, if you would, the board is comfortable, and I believe they will be, if you'd take a spot up here and,
Andy is gone.
what was that?
Andy's no longer up there.
Yes, Andy, I believe, he sent me a text saying he was in a bad area, as he was moving, so I don't know if we'll find him again, but we're not gonna send out a search party for him.
That's great.
All right, Kelly, you wanna lead the charge? Or does somebody else? I think we're gonna let
I'm
you go.
not, yeah, I'm not sure what you want, if you want from Kelly, I can just summarize what we've been working on. So Kelly did back up the times as requested by the board to make sure that everybody was in on time. And given that it was just the backing up of the times, we already sent the routes out. I think the one outstanding item that is, bothersome, and Kelly and I have been brainstorming and trying to think of solutions, is the high school bus. We only had one bus, and there are currently 13 people on the waiting list. I've sure been a nudge, but every time I think of a possible solution, I send it to Kelly and ask if it might work. So I can let Kelly speak to what she's been trying to do. And,
Before we don't have it updated, do we have the updated?
are they in the packet, the updated?
No, I can print them.
They were sent out on one call now, but
I know we
think
got
you
them
have-
individually, does
yeah.
the board comfortable working without them, or would the board?
I'm
like
happy to go make
update
copies.
Are we okay? BJ?
I should have them.
If you don't, I'm sorry, if you don't mind.
Comfortable.
No, I meant
Yeah, I'm not,
Really.
I don't know that we were gonna reapprove them because all we did was put the times where you wanted them, nothing else changed.
I mean, I saw them in the packet.
Yeah, they got
That's fine.
sent out.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, I apologize.
It's just high school that is kind of outstanding.
Sorry, go ahead.
So basically, we are, at the last board meeting, we didn't even know how we were gonna get the kids home, we didn't have a driver. Shortly after that, I was able to find a driver that was available for only afternoons, match the one that's only available in mornings. So, and she's able to go and pick them up on time. So they won't have to wait at the school to, whatever time another driver can get there. I have put out another help call to everyone. We have, if anybody else is available to go later after a run, which we discussed the last time, or if anybody can fit in before a morning run in any town, can do a quick run in, obviously the picking town and shooting and get in there, 7 or 7:10, as early as they would let us drop off, and then come back and do their own run, but I haven't gotten a response on that yet either.
So, at the moment, how many students do we have that have requested transportation on the high school bus? We just want to focus on high school for a moment.
Right, so we have, obviously, the 51 that are on the bus, those, in addition, there's 16 that asked. So we qualified what they needed when we put them on the wait list. You have 16 in AM and PM 5 days a week. There's 9 that are only looking for, there's a few more than Patty actually, further away. There's 9 that are looking for just a PM ride. And there's 3 just that want to have it as a backup. An occasional or that type of thing.
So, at the moment, we have 16 students that aren't able to,
Really, yeah, really need AM and PM.
okay. We really need a second bus.
We do, we do,
Oh, okay.
I agree.
So, what are the prospects, or what have the prospects been for finding additional drivers for us?
So you currently have, 2 in training.
Deerfield has two. So that will give us,
Well, if you want to bring that up.
Go, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, in addition.
this is good news, so
Okay.
feel free to share it.
Okay, so that's, so in addition to that, Amy Cron stepped up and, said that she offered that she would drive if that was okay, with Kristen and Brian. So she came in this morning to meet with us, we're getting her going, and get her through. She has all of her, license credentials except for the school bus certificate, but she still has to do the classroom and the behind the wheel. She has to basically do everything but the driving test and clear the background checks, which obviously won't be a problem, but there's stuff that we have to take, even though we know she's cleared here. So we're trying to move that along as fast as we possibly can, but sticking with our policies of safety that we have to do.
So, we have 4 and 1 today. We're starting school with the 4 elementary buses and the 1 high school bus.
Correct.
We have 2 full-time drivers in training.
Yes,
They will be dedicated to Deerfield. What's the intention for where you want to place them? And then it sounds like we have a 3rd driver.
so we have Amy obviously would need to be here,
Okay.
she, in town, because she needs to be able to go in school, which she's done. The other 2, obviously can go wherever you decide you want, I'm assuming you want to mitigate more if possible with, in town, and then the other person could be high school.
Would 6 buses allow us to not have to do the staggered runs?
I think I have to rework it, I think we can obviously do it 6.
Okay, so there's, and how long before you think when will we have those drivers on the road working for us?
That's the major question.
You know what's coming, so.
Mine has a driving appointment already. The driver we spoke of earlier that had to take a leave from training, he came back this week, so he has a driving appointment.
Okay.
So that could be very soon if he goes through the first time.
Have they already, so has that person already done the classroom, the field work?
He's working on the field work now as an actual driving test appointment. That would be it.
Okay, so post the driving test, post passing the driving test, when do you place them in a bus for us?
They can go in immediately. Obviously, we want to be able to give them a little bit of guidance when we do that. We don't like to just throw them on a bus full of children by themselves for the first time, because everything they've done to this point is empty. We do try to give them a little extra, if somebody can ride with them, which, these days doesn't really happen. We're all driving, but, almost immediately, we can get them their own bus.
Okay.
Clear. The other one has not gone all the way through the written yet. We started later in the process.
Is it conceivable that by the end of September, those 3 buses would be running for us?
2,
2 of them would be running?
2
Amy's
possibly,
and-
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The other one will not get that far that quickly.
And then, so would you say the end of October, we'd have access to the 3rd one?
If everything goes through, again, they have to make it through all the steps and finish all the way.
I'm more looking for the light at the end of this particular tunnel. And so we clearly need another high school bus. And I don't want to say it's a priority, but it's most certainly a need. And I think the board would need to prioritize where the drivers are going to end up. Is that a fair statement? Does the board agree with that?
Yeah, I think it is a priority. We mandate that our students go 35 minutes away, and we don't provide a bus to them.
So
I think it is a priority.
So Amy's bus is going to be dedicated to DSO, because that's just where it's going to be, or to DCS.
Sorry, just a side note, I don't know if Amy's intention is to drive all year.
Okay.
I think Amy's doing us a favor until we can get these 2 people up and running. So that would still leave you with 6 buses after these 2 people are done. You're not gonna have 7.
Was that your understanding, today, or was she gonna wait until you had 7 bus drivers?
She didn't, I didn't speak with her about that.
We can get that
We can get
clarified,
that
but
clarified, but kind of go with that 6 would be like,
And then we have the one
Mostly here.
driver, remember, that's available to us until November,
For,
because then he goes away for the winter.
is that one of
time.
our 4?
Yes, one of your current 4. Now, things change like crazy, like they kind of are, and they won't be going anywhere, because
So
that's Thanksgiving.
the current route, we absolutely need to put another high school bus on. I think this board needs to recognize that the contract isn't being, the services negotiated aren't being satisfied if we're leaving high school students on the side of it. And so I think that statement needs to clearly be made, that STA is not fulfilling its end of our agreement with them. So clearly you're making, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Kelly, I have a question for you, and again, I know you're at the messenger, so I harbor no ill will towards you. But I have to ask the question, is STA, if you were, if all your contracts were to come up to bid again, that Dale STA currently services, would you guys be planning on trying to take on the same amount of workload that you currently have? Like, we have to recognize this is a ridiculous problem we've been facing for years now of underperforming, and it's coming to an absolute head. So I think as a board, we need to ask STA to provide us some kind of foresight what they're thinking, or are they just going to try and keep hoping we take it as a district? Like, I don't know. So I'm curious what Kelly has to say on behalf of STAs for how they're managing this constantly. You're not serving any of your districts.
So I think, Jeff, I don't know if you heard Kelly, but she isn't in a position or the person that would be able to speak to that. That would be more for Jeff from STA, who we could most certainly invite back in for a discussion at some point.
Can we get it back in?
If the board would like to have Jeff visit with us, we can most certainly request it. Is that what the board would like? Right?
I'm not in a position to approve these routes as they're presented, so if that needs to happen, I would like to hear from him. I can't approve this tonight in terms of my vote, so I don't know what, how that factors into our next meeting or whatever.
This is the rock and a hard place that we're perpetually placed against. We can't open school for the elementary. We can't open the elementary school if the buses aren't rolling, we're not providing transportation. That's it, right? So we don't have a choice in that regard. Optimistically, and this is a yearly occurrence, and again, Kelly, I've said this to you 100 times, my frustrations aren't directed at you because I know you're simply the messenger and you get sent out to take the beatings, and that's not fair. And I would much rather Jeff be sitting there than you, because he's the one that should be hearing this, not you. That being said, we have four elementary buses, that's what we have, that's all we're gonna have in 2 weeks when school starts. Or a week when school starts. So, we don't have a choice, we have to allow those buses to run, maybe, if we don't approve those routes.
We approved those last meeting.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, so you're talking about the high school run.
I'm talking about high school.
All right, so in regards to the high school run, I think the statement that we do make is that they are underperforming on the negotiations. They're underperforming on the contract that we bargained for. And we need to notify them of that. And we need to instruct Amber per the contract to notify them that they are not satisfying what we bargained for. And we need to place them on notice. And then we need to start denoting their instances of underperformance in the contract. And any day that all of our high school students are not afforded a ride as per the contract, they need to be notified that they are in non-performance on that aspect of the contract.
Does that require first an approval of the plan and then, or if we don't approve the plan, does that mean that we don't even run any buses, and so all of our Concord High School students are sitting here in Deerfield?
I think we approve the current routing as it sits with the notation that we are acknowledging that they are underperforming our bargaining agreement. And we are notifying.
Yeah, I think the motion could read that we direct Amber to notify Dale/STA of any, so in the contract, there's specific language on how to notify them when they are failing to perform and these liquidated damages can be assessed. So I think we can improve the plan, but also give Amber the power to act per the language of the contract. If so, if they meet that requirement, which they will be.
You following me? Us? Nate?
Yeah.
Okay. So, with that in mind, the next available driver, should we focus that driver's efforts on the high school?
That's my vote.
Is that the wish of the board? Jeff?
Can you repeat that?
The next driver that becomes available, is it the wish of this board to direct that driver to the high school?
Yes.
GG?
Yes.
Okay, so in regards to the next driver that comes on, outside of obviously Amy, we would like that driver to be assigned to the high school. Until that is complete, it is going to be considered by this board that STA is in non-compliance with the bargaining agreement. Patty, can you please have Amber notify STA in writing?
Yep.
Or the language in the contract? Okay.
Does that need a formal motion and a vote or not?
Oh,
Okay. Also, Patty, I would like any billing from STA to go before the board prior to approval, so that the board can discuss it moving forward. That's my request, it isn't the board's request at this point, but if the board is in agreement, I would like this board to review their billing prior to us paying their name.
Yeah, is that a motion or how do you want to word that, Zach?
I think I want to get a sense of the board, and then if I need to form it into a motion, I most certainly can. Nate, do you agree with that?
Yep.
I see enough nods, so,
I fully support it.
so with that being said, Patty, is that a feasible request?
sure. As soon as the bills come, we'll scan them and put them in the drive for you.
So I would move that any future payments to Dale be approved by the full board in a meeting. I don't know, I think, hold on a second. Move that any future payments to Dale are approved by the board. It's fine, it's clean and simple.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? That being said, Kelly, my understanding based on the language in the contract is that we will be paying per bus per day. So while you are providing 4 buses to us, our invoicing should reflect 4 buses, not multiple runs of those buses, because the contract language is pretty clear. It is per bus per day. And that is how we intend to satisfy the contract. So that's my understanding of the language of the contract.
Yeah, I thought was that, the second one would be a half day rate.
Unfortunately, it's not how the contract is written. So, I anticipate that's how we'll see it go. And that will be what I'm particularly looking for. Any other discussions regarding that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jeff, you're still there?
Aye.
Okay. Couple other transportation questions that I have. Our current policy is for what age students to have a parent home when they get dropped off?
I don't know that that's specified in your policy, but I did not pull that policy in quite some time.
Do we know,
I haven't looked at
We've
that.
always directed them,
I wanna say it's third grade.
I was gonna pick that.
Kelly, is that, so third grade and younger, or second grade and younger?
It really depends on the district's policy, and most do not allow anybody younger than second grade. Some schools don't allow anybody, fourth grade and down. Some schools that are broken into different buildings, and they have a K-4, none of those students are allowed without a parent, so it's up to your individual.
So, one thing that I noticed in some of the routing, and I don't want to necessarily get into specifics, but I did open up a particular page. I know there's a number of kids that live on Coffeetown Road. Coffeetown Road is one of those long and winding country dirt roads, but it doesn't appear that bus is running down Coffeetown Road.
That we're running, we're stopping at either end.
Okay, does anybody, do you know about how long that road is from?
I'd have to check it for you, I'm not sure.
I know there's instances in some of the subdivisions where we drop the kids at either end, but I also know there's a number of kids getting off in those subdivisions.
I think it is more than 2 miles, and so the middle point of Coffeetown Road, if they have to walk, that's more than a mile, which is against state law, I believe. Isn't the limit of a student walking a mile?
I thought it was a mile and a half.
I think it's a mile and a
I'll
half.
have to check.
It was 2 miles going up.
Uphill, barefoot over lava. So I have a concern, that's one instance that jumped out at me, just because I know that's a road that takes some time to travel down, and I know there may be another number of roads. I feel like in years past, that wasn't how the routing was. And so I want to very openly express a concern to that routing. In instances where that exists, I feel like we should be making an effort to address it. So I don't know if the board agrees with that or not, but I don't know what a reasonable distance to have say a third grader walking is, but I feel like a mile up a dirt road is not my.
Yeah, but getting a kid on a bus at 6 a.m. isn't ideal either.
Well, I haven't gone there yet.
Nothing is, nothing about this is good, Zach.
No, and I'm.
So how is that gonna make it better? I mean, yeah, it'll make it better for that family, but it's gonna, none of this is good.
No, but I wanna make very clear, and I wanna vocalize a lot of the instances where there's dissatisfaction.
There's a lot of them.
So anyhow, that's a concern of mine. And then if you can look at when that fifth bus is available or comes online, or when Amy's bus is able to come on, I'm gonna refer to it as Amy's bus comes online. If we can look for a way to maximize our impact with that particular bus to shorten up ride times as best as possible, we need to do that. And so I don't know if it's worth requesting in advance what the routes may look like when that fifth bus hits the line. But I think we need to do that and then see what the routes will look like when the sixth bus hits the line, because hopefully that will stop us from having to do staggered runs.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Kind of going back to like what happens if Amy gets approved the day after the school board meeting? Do you need to still approve, like, are you saying you want to wait until 2 more weeks to
So I
let that
have,
route go?
I have no hesitation to call a meeting at any point. And I suspect that the rest of the board members will gladly join along if it's helping us resolve a problem. Is that fair?
Yep.
So
No, I just want to make sure, like, kind of, everyone's on the same.
I have no problem keeping everybody out at night. Let's just get the problems dealt with.
You want, if in the meantime, you want her to be able to do double runs, to shorten rides.
I think Amy will do whatever you need her to do,
I'm just.
and we're
making
happy
sure.
to
Okay.
let that happen.
as effectively as you can, shorten times and try to,
Yep.
and be flexible as far as if we can start tightening those windows up, let's just get the information out as rapidly as we can. It's not gonna be a good situation to have kids getting on a bus at 6:20 in the morning, so the faster we can overcome this, the better off we are. And I wanna get there as quickly as we can. Anything else for Kelly?
Not for Kelly, but on the topic, but nothing.
Okay.
Well, do you want to, I haven't had a chance to read all the emails that I've received, but several of them commented on the early pickup for the outer ring drop off and then the late drop off for the outer ring, so I don't know if you wanna take a moment to explain your thoughts behind that.
So, obviously, last meeting we talked about that, I left it to you guys to see if you want to look at. Bringing in, the kids are on the outer edges of town, but it's also as you're coming towards, if there's any kids that you can fit on a bus and get to school, so that you have bus to go back and grab, and make that shorter. So basically those four short routes where the pink and the red used to be, each had half of them split up so that they could get there quickly, in so that we could start school in the afternoon to get them home and come back quickly to get everybody else out of the building. That can be flipped if you so choose in the afternoon, that's completely up to you.
So do the outer run first in the afternoon and
Which
then,
means that, which means it takes longer to go further, but
which means we need coverage for longer.
So at the moment, our supervision, will it be structured in the afternoons or in the mornings? Or how you, what kind of, I mean, will students have an opportunity to work on homework? Will there be,
We've already had staff members reach out about that, especially with our upper guys and girls, just be able to have them work with small groups for homework time, but we've also, we're gonna put 2 buses in the cafeteria, 2 buses in the gymnasium. We have staff members already working on gathering supplies and materials for the kids to use while they're here, building up a cart so that, and building in a system so they know what to do. We've talked about providing a snack. I'll repeat if I have to, in the afternoons, for the time being. I think
and that idle time's approximately a half an hour?
in the morning is about, I believe, between 30 and 40 minutes, depending on, some buses are, it's between anywhere from 7 to 7:10 is the first drop off. The second, in the afternoon, most buses will be back here by 3:30. Between 3:20 and 3:30.
So, another question that I have is for, if we're gonna have staff here to supervise kids, if families want to utilize that staff for an earlier drop-off, if it prevents their kids from having to use the bus. So I use myself as an example. I either need to use the bus, or I need to bring if I could bring the kids here early, I wouldn't necessarily need to utilize the bus, which could take a load off of, it's one stop, but.
Right, we discussed that, the staff members that we're brainstorming this out with. We expect to have about 200 kids here in the morning for bus, 260 kids here.
That would be just the first way to come on the buses.
Right, and so to offer that to any random,
Residents off road, clearly.
and it just was too much to wrap our heads around. We need to at least start off with just buses for before and after school supervision while the kids are waiting.
Okay. Additional questions?
Mrs. Rose, you missed, I mentioned you were next.
But it won't be delicious snacks.
Oh, forget
It's gonna be kale and spinach. I'm joking. I don't know what it is.
Okay, Maggie.
Any other questions?
You want to bring it up now? I mean, okay.
So, are we done with high school? High school's done with as far as that single bus goes?
I would just update you that I did contact Concord a while back, and they were very amenable to finding spaces, so if we did get a late bus, they had a spot for the students, and they were even willing to go as far as to see if they could get the library at, the high school to stay open later for students to use, so, if we do end up finding someone to do a second run, I think Concord would be able to help us, let the students have a space.
So in the circumstance that becomes available, presumably the board will support that.
It would be a late run back?
A late run.
Right.
We've talked about it for a number of years, we never had the ability to really pull it off. So if it can be done, go ahead and do it. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you asked your drivers, nobody has agreed, but if you can find someone, that would be,
The other thing that you might think of that we spoke about in the past is that, obviously a lot of kids might be sports kids. If the bus pulls up and you can't get everybody on, what do you do?
right, it's gonna have to be the students on the waiting list that get the ride home.
Right, not necessarily sports and such.
Right, it's not really a late bus, it's
Okay,
the
that's
second
what I
run to
was
get those
thinking,
kids.
but I just,
Yeah.
that could be a scenario that would come up and you're like, oh, now what do I do?
Right.
You know?
That's exactly what we're talking about in the morning, like how many kids would show up? You know, we have 6 staff members available, there's 400 kids are here, that's not enough people for 400, you know, and you can't fit 200 kids, what's the capacity in here?
180 on it.
So the gym can handle a little bit more, but it just was too much, so similar situation.
Nate, I think you want to decide, Steph, you want to have
Yeah.
transportation, but a different part of transportation?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that question is how the school manages this. And from one perspective, it sounds like we have a plan in place to have some students here after school and before school, and that sounds like a well thought out plan. That's great. I like the idea. But I'm concerned about how many of those kids it sounds like the same ones who have been here for 45 minutes before school. They've been through a day of school, now they're here for 45 minutes after school. And then they've got a 45-minute bus ride on either side. That is a really long day. And I think an expectation that, I guess I would defer to you knowing better than, but to expect them to like do homework in the afternoon after that kind of a day, I feel like is.
No, they're looking at the morning, doing small groups in the morning if possible,
Okay.
not in the afternoon.
Okay.
So we could have a quiet spot for some kids if they want to work on their homework, so they don't have to do it when they get home, but
I'm wondering whether this is such a systemic issue that it would make sense that at least until we get down our buses numbered to the point where we can get a single run back to some level of normalcy, do we suspend homework for a little bit? Do we say that our kids are days long enough as it is, why don't we focus on what's happening and the learning that's happening in the classroom and prioritize that? And put a hold on expecting homework to happen from a lot of these kids who are gonna have really long days. And if I would be happy to make that motion or add it to the handbook or something, I don't know how this works, it's getting to the level of kind of micromanaging, but I feel like that's something that
I love our
I'm hearing from the
conversations about
community.
homework.
I know you do, we can circle back.
I would think that we could just let the teachers know what's going on and that they would be understanding and work with us. I think it would be a pretty big sweep to just say, don't assign homework.
If we did that, you and I have to argue for hours again.
Which I'm happy to do. I think that a sporadic, some teachers asking, expecting that these kids who've spent 10 hours to actually come back with homework, I think that's unrealistic, and so I'm just a school board member, but I think that would be something that hopefully they would be thinking about, and I don't know, is that a message they can get back?
How do you?
I'm happy to ask teachers to use their discretion when giving homework, knowing that there are some students that are going to have long days getting to school. Does that feel good?
Well done.
Okay, what more would you like to say to that?
I'd be happy to say no homework until we have a single bus run again. But I'm not gonna, I will make that motion.
It's a motions and seconds kind of world,
Yeah,
Nate.
I'll move that we, I've got some language here.
This was premeditated.
Yeah, homework will, so we can add this to the student handbook. Homework will not be factored into students' grades until the DCS bus situation has returned to a single run. Full stop.
We have a motion by Nate to temporarily suspend homework until we get our busing.
That's not what I heard. I heard that it won't be figured into their grade, not that they won't have
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear over the.
Yeah.
I said will not be factored into students' grades until the DCS bus situation has returned to a single mode.
Jeff, did you?
He's been gone for a while.
Oh, my lord, I didn't realize
You could
that.
probably shut the screen off, I think it won't be
I would
screen.
like, I don't know, I like seeing it too.
They can see me.
I was going to transition with Kelly, so.
So I feel like I may have just been outnumbered. All right, so we have a motion, was there a second?
No.
I will second it for discussion.
My thought behind that is that in the best of times, homework is an uneven tool, and I think there's little evidence that, obviously depending on how it's used, but across the board, across the school, there's little evidence that that learning is increased. I think that this is an opportunity that we can think about what we do and thinking about prioritizing and making our learning experiences focused in the classroom and making them outstanding. And the way that different students go home to different family situations and come back with or without homework is closely tied to what kind of parental and family support they have at home. It's not about how much a student wants to learn, and I think there's plenty of evidence to support that idea. So now that we are exacerbating this with giving them even less time at home and creating this incredibly stressful situation for a longer day, I think that we'll see even less benefit from the homework that comes back. That does come back. And to make it using punitive measures to try to get them to do more homework when they're already in a very difficult situation, I think is unfair at best.
Additional discussion?
I definitely see your point of view. I feel very similar about homework. And I'm trying to sit here and process if a board policy is the way to start this. From a teacher perspective, like the heads of the teacher, and then I'm thinking about different types of homework and what that looks like. There is something about like not counting it as part of the grade, although I would think that, again, if formative assessments, you would want them to happen in the school during the day and not necessarily as homework, but, sorry, I'm thought processing, that's me. So I'm uncertain if I want to make a board policy and the teachers feel like, where'd that come from?
Could I just say that I think a lot of the formative assessments that are done during the school day, and the students have time built in their schedule to do that, to say that a teacher can't say to a kid, well, you finish something at home, finish it and bring it back tomorrow. I don't know if, Brian can chime in, but at the lower grades, there's not a ton of homework to begin with. And I think in the middle school, it's unfinished assignments that need to have some time, you gotta get it done, and.
I mean, we've been down this before, if you tell a middle school student that what they're doing doesn't count, they are not gonna do it. And so if we tell kids, this is not gonna be part of your grade, they are not gonna do it. And now you're gonna have a gap, right? These kids did their work, these kids didn't do their work, now you're extending a gap that's already been created by this pandemic even further. There's certain stuff, I mean.
That's a different discussion, I think. Like what you, I'm sorry, can I speak?
I mean, if it's middle school students have study labs built into their schedule. And so it's not every day, but they are getting time to work they're getting 45 minutes every other day to work on missing assignments or get caught up or get ahead. So, my opinion.
So we have discussed homework at numerous occasions. and I've died on homework hill once or twice, building my. I certainly see the validity in what Nate's trying to accomplish, and I think there is gonna be a number of students having a long day. And actually, I'm gonna pause for 1 second, because Kelly's here on her own time right now. If we're through with Kelly, we can cut her loose. Are we through with Kelly?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kelly, I didn't know that's the direction I was going in, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly.
And, again, the board's frustration isn't directed at you. We know that you make every effort to do everything you can.
And they're trying to help you as well, and I'm trying to get every resource we can go. I mean, I'm excited that we have these people in training.
I'm thrilled. That's the best news, best news you've brought us in a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I just, our frustration isn't directed at you. It's directed at the situation, and it's directed at STA. It's not directed to the folks at Dale who have worked hard for our community for a very long time. It's directed beyond that. But thank you. I'm gonna cut you loose and then we'll go back to Nate's. So I definitely understand the logic, Nate, behind what you're trying to accomplish. I think children need to reinforce their learning in school, and that's a conversation we've had. Although, I think sending work home and saying it doesn't count, so don't worry about it, is gonna create a system, a situation where you have, I can see it in my own house. My daughter will do the work anyway, because you sent it home. You could send home somebody else's work, she's gonna do that, because that's the way she is. You tell my son the same story, you'll never hear about it again. And I think that can create situations where the students start pacing further away from each other. I would rather not that I believe there should be homework, but I would rather there not, if you're gonna do something along those lines, I'd rather we just ask the staff to not give homework while we're running these extended bus runs and extended times and extended days, if that makes sense.
I'm happy to amend it. I like your idea.
And I don't know if that even requires a motion, or if we can just simply ask, as a board, ask the staff to ease up on the homework. My bigger concern is that it's consistent across all the students. And so I would ask that if the staff, if they pull back, but I would want the expectation, if it's assigned, that it still gets done, so that the students don't start pacing separately from each other beyond the natural occurrence of that.
And you think without a motion that would, do we need a motion for this? I'm happy to take it back, but if it doesn't happen, then, I mean, like you said, we speak through motions.
We do, and sometimes we ask.
Okay.
Patty, you wanna weigh in?
I would defer to Kristen or Brian. Do you think that's something that the staff would be amenable to if you asked them, if you pointed out how many hours the students are gonna be?
Absolutely.
Are we comfortable there?
I'm right with that. I'll withdraw my motion.
JJ? No, I had the second, I'm sorry, I withdraw my second.
Alright.
Alright. So, anything else? That slid into transportation, maybe it wasn't where it belonged, but we slid it in there. Anything else regarding that? Alright, so with that in mind, we have board reports. We have a PTO update.
Just the usual, our fundraiser is still ongoing, the shoes are still collecting until September 30th, so it's out front. We've added a few drop locations, Deerfield, Pettenty, Moss Cafe, Northwood Hannaford, and at the end of Millstone Drive, there's a box too, so if you have any shoes, feel free to drop them there, we're happy to take them. We'll collect them at the back to school barbecue as well. And we have our fall bulb and mum fundraiser going as well. So if anyone's looking to get a jump on their fall planting, we have bulbs for sale, and then we'll do a day of plant sale with the mums that have to be picked up because they're the ones already grown.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And I've seen some emails going back and forth, so We have plans in place for the barbecue and hopefully help from the PTO.
Yes, we will be happy to be there and help serve. I believe Trish has all your marching orders.
Food is here.
You have it backwards. We have Trish's market.
The food is in the building.
The food is in the building, so, awesome. So the barbecue is from 4 to
7.
7.
Open house is 4 to 6, but we might, depending on, the
Use your,
teachers are gonna be here,
use
so.
your discretion. And the board, I believe all the board members will be here and present, and it's a day I've always looked forward to as a board member. So I'm looking forward to us resuming that again.
I used your line in my video about smelling like a cheeseburger for a week.
We could bottle it, be a millionaire. Anything else from the PTO?
That's it.
That's it? Awesome. Any questions for the PTO?
It's this Monday, is the cookout.
Is this upcoming Monday? Yeah,
All right,
so a
thank
few
you.
days away. Cleared my schedule and everything. I'm excited.
We'll set up at like 2, like 1, 2, right?
I will have young volunteers with me as well
Good.
for you all to abuse.
I would say closer to 2, like in the past years,
Okay.
we haven't set up till 3.
Yeah.
All right,
So I think that's plenty.
All right,
thank you,
awesome. And again, we appreciate all your help and support with this and everything else.
thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions for the PTO board members? All right, Nate, as the exec board, Matt?
We did meet briefly to finalize a new hire for the alternative middle school.
Awesome.
We also, actually, while I was there, also talked about busing, oddly enough, and heard from other members, other districts about their busing situation. Out of curiosity, whether they were experiencing similar issues that we have been. And Chichester said that they have a different busing company called Marston, and they've had no problems at all. Family-owned place for Pittsfield, have had great success with Marston. Epsom said that they have Dale, and they've had no problems with Dale. The other 2 districts weren't there, but I believe Patty said in the past that Pembroke is having problems with Dale, but Allenstown is not having problems with Dale.
That is my understanding, I hadn't heard that they're short.
I do wonder, and one of the things we talked about was whether it would be worth contacting Marston.
They won't take anyone on.
They won't take it.
They tried.
We have called everybody and anybody with a yellow bus that we can contact in the state.
We have.
That was it.
Okay, Principal Libby.
Yes, so this report is from August 5th to today, August 18th. We have spent the better part of the last several weeks preparing for the return of our students, which is exactly 1 week from today. So on Wednesday, August 25th is day 1 of school. We will welcome our certified staff back on Monday, August 23rd, and all staff will return on August 24th, Tuesday. We usually have lunch for on one day and a breakfast on the next day. Sorry, turn this one. We haven't quite figured out the breakfast thing. We're pretty sure we're gonna do pizzas, calzones, and salad for lunch on the Monday. But we usually serve the breakfast we've been a little busy though, so we haven't quite hammered that whole thing. So as you can imagine, with the flip of the calendar from July to August, teachers have been back in the building. We've had several paraprofessionals who have come in and helped with their teacher that they'll be working with this year. Bless their hearts, and so they have been preparing their classrooms for the kids. And I will certainly pass along the new information about the open house being outside, and they're gonna figure that out. I know that they will, and they'll make it very personal, and as only DCS student teachers and staff do. Chris Montica held a new teacher orientation yesterday and today in Pembroke, so our newest dragons went out to Pembroke for actually it was a day and a half. Today I was able to join them for about an hour, and we debriefed some of the work that Chris had done. Chris introduces our new staff to all the platforms that we use, Alma and MLP. He had them start working on their goals. So he brought in several speakers to talk about the different things that go on in the SAU. And all the principals from the respective buildings went today for about an hour. And then we were able to bring our new staff back to our respective schools. So our newer staff joined us back here at DCS. We had lunch in the outdoor classroom, and Mr. Yurjo joined us with his UNH interns. They loved the outdoor classroom number 1, and we took them for a quick tour to outdoor classroom number 3, which has the beginning of the permanent structure. That one's a little further along than outdoor classroom number 7, but it was very impressive. Sue Laskowski and Sam Wilson were both there. They've done a ton of work this summer with Jack. And I just wanna make sure I give them a huge shout out. Sue has brought her daughter Brooke along, and Sam has brought her husband, who came over the weekend and helped do the roof part of, so we've got, as usual, lots of people that step up and help out, and Sam's son also came, I'm not sure as willingly as the husband did, but anyway, just wanna make sure that I give those folks a shout out, cause that's their volunteer time and we really appreciate that. So the outdoor classroom number 3, the structure is just amazing. If you can get out there and take a look at it, it's, I can just visualize all the kids out there. It's really a sight to be seen, and we're really, the folks that worked on that should be very proud of the work that they've done. As a reminder, we do have 10 UNH interns that will be joining us this school year. We have 8 in the fall, and then our art and PE intern in the fall will leave to go to a different school in the spring, and we'll get a second art and PE intern for the springtime. So we do have a total of 10, which is a very big class of interns, so we're very excited about that. And I think that was all, sorry, I jumped ahead of myself with the outdoor classrooms. So that about wraps it up. We're still gearing up, cleaning up. The school is not 100% ready for opening day yet, but it will be. And Chris Kofis and his crew have worked very hard this summer to get our school in tip-top shape, so.
Excellent. Any questions for Ms. Wood? I'm excited to see the outdoor classrooms.
Amazing.
New improved ones. Alright, the CRB, I don't believe has had a meeting.
Nope.
That'll resume in the near future. I did speak with Jeff the other day. The next meeting for the building expansion committee is scheduled for the end of this month.
August
28th maybe it was? Okay, so we'll have an update on that after the meeting.
25th.
I'm sorry, 25th, which is a
Wednesday.
Week from today?
Yeah.
Okay. So at our next meeting, Jeff will be able to update on that. And then Nate, I don't know if there's anything to add for the high school?
Yeah, well, I asked to add something to informational, but I could do it here if it's about high school stuff.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, so I put 2, so I have noticed, or word has come to me that that there is a fair amount of misunderstanding, misinformation, uncertainty about the current situation with our high school in Deerfield, kind of like what it is and how it works and who goes and so I was thinking that it might make sense to kind of put some information out there that would be more factual, accessible, easily found, that kind of stuff. And so I proposed two documents that are in the folder. One, and I guess I'm looking for your approval before I start to post them and put them out there, if that's.
So I had a chance to review them, and I have seen a lot of the information that you may be referencing, or I've seen a lot of information that isn't wholly accurate.
Yeah.
So I certainly, at a cursory glance, it looked great, but I would like one more pass over it before I committed to it.
Yeah. No hurry, but I was wrestling with kind of how do I do this, and I wrote that thing, and that's all well and good, but I'm thinking maybe it would, the sort of the short history, the brief history scenario of how we got here basically would go into the high school folder, which we currently have on the SIU website.
Absolutely.
And then that other kind of graphic would be maybe a Facebook post or something that would link to it and explain how to, like, just sort of a quick thing.
The folder, bring it all the information.
And then, find more detailed information in this document that's accessible.
Absolutely think that's something we need to do.
Alright.
So I would say let's give the board just one more chance to glance over that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then send me any edits, or we can talk about edits next meeting, and then I'll put it up there.
Awesome. All right, this brings us to the policy discussion.
I would be interested, some of these conversations, I would like to talk a little bit more and do sort of a little more work outside of meetings.
Okay.
Before we act on them now. Can we put them off one more meeting?
And I would rather have the full board here for any policy discussions as well, so if we can just advance them to the next meeting, we will hopefully all be here. Is there anything that has to be addressed tonight, Patty, or looking at everything, it looked like we could
That's fine.
slide it for another round. All right. So that brings us, we've satisfied Nate's informational item. So it's gonna bring us to public comments. Anybody that is here that would like to comment, please do so. I'm gonna allow anybody who didn't comment the first time to comment first. So Kevin will circle back to you after anybody else has a chance. Same as before, please just try to keep everything pleasant.
Michelle from Mount Delight Road. I'd just like to say that I am, as a parent of DCS, really proud of how you are finally holding Dale accountable for their lack of fulfilling our contract. It is a nightmare, like you said, everything, it's a nightmare. I think if parents were given a timeline, like she actually gave us some answers today, the end of September, the end of October. If you were to ask parents to drive till Thanksgiving, I think you could probably solve some problems, because you've heard it here first, Brian, I will drive my kids. I said no at first, but knowing now that hopefully by Thanksgiving it will be worked out, I will gladly drive my kids. So that's one less stop. That's two less, right? So I think if that information was given out, I bet you would find a few more parents in town that would drive their kids. And I think that would work itself out with the double things.
So we'll cancel snack.
No, it's not canceling.
Kale and spinach.
Because
Snack will fix
it's
itself.
just daunting to me in my personal life that to drive my kids here 180 days. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask a parent. If there was some sort of, till Thanksgiving, could you just help us out? I think you would get more people who would actually drive. And I know Brian's afraid of me, so he doesn't want me in the building, but where will board meetings happen if no visitors are?
So I will address that. Board meetings will still
Okay.
continue to occur here. Board meetings will be open to the public as they were last year
Okay.
when we were having our meetings and the building was still closed.
And then, I don't know, this is just, I didn't read in your email if, I know Ms. Yell left. I didn't see a new gym teacher being hired.
Oh.
Will we have 2 gym teachers? We do, okay. That's it, thank you.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
I didn't hear really answer questions. Ashley Moulton, Raymond Road. Totally support the policies that you're making. And I know that shifts the barbecue to outside. Like a week into school, I think the 27th, the preschool is supposed to have like an in-class visitation. So I don't know if that moves to the barbecue or what happens to the littlest ones as far as like meet your teacher.
The administration will update shortly. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Virginia Avery from 5 McCarran Road, and I just wanted to express my concern. I understand that the bus is a big confuddle, and everybody's doing the best that they can. My only concern is that the same group of students are the group that is going to be arriving early and waiting early, and they're also the same group that's at the end. And I wasn't here if this was discussed at the last meeting. I don't know what the time discrepancy is by switching and alternating so that each inner and outer, they each have a turn to wait, and it's not one group of students waiting the entire time. So I can't speak to, like how much time it is and if it's really that big of a deal that this is the only option. But I am concerned that the same group of students are the students that are gonna be here for an additional 30 to 40 minutes on either end of the day. When if it's relatively close, I don't see why we can't split it and one group is here for an extra 30, 40 minutes and then the other group is here for an extra 30, 40 minutes. That's all.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Tammy Brown, Griffin Road. I basically have the same idea as her, like, why can't it be switched so that the ones that get here early in the morning can leave quicker? So basically the same thing.
Thank you. Kevin, I think you're up.
Yeah, Kevin Burrow, McCarran Road. So we have to speak quick, right? It used to be 3 minutes. I don't know why we're in such a rush, and tonight we heard 2 minutes. So we have to speak quickly. It's my opinion that Member Oxnard completely misrepresented my remarks in debate amongst the board after public comments. And it's my opinion that he did that to try to advance a political agenda that he probably knew beforehand that he didn't have the votes to get done. And I don't like my elected representatives misrepresenting, and I believe willfully, knowingly, and purposefully misrepresenting my remarks in debate of this board. I feel that I'm owed an apology. And I can't believe that I drag my ass out here to listen to this, and that's what we get. And the old Kevin would have waited for you outside and really told you how I felt, but the new Kevin is kinder and gentler. You, Mr. Oxnard, I believe you owe me an apology. If you have a question about how I'm trying to advocate my position, then you should give me a call, give me an email, or tap me on the shoulder. But to twist my words the way you did tonight is unconscionable and unforgivable, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments?
I just want to say I like Member Oxnard. That's it.
All right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I had one. I know that the hunt for a French teacher was unsuccessful, and I'm just curious if there's other options, like if there, like, we did remote, so like, is there any option for like a remote in-school option that we could still offer French, or is there like a VLAX that the kids could do while they're in the building? I'm not sure if that's something that
I think the administration has been trying to pursue anything that they can find, and at this point is looking under every rock they can.
the whole world is short-staffed now.
Unfortunately.
Well, my son really wanted French,
I need
so I had to ask.
I need 30 people where I work, so if you find an extra 30 people, we can peel off a couple bus drivers, but send the rest to me. Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so at this point, the board will be going into a non-public session per NHRSA 91.832, small letters B and C. Look for a motion to enter non-public.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gigi, seconded by Nate. Requires a roll call. Nate?
Yes.
Gigi?
Yes.
Myself, yes. It is, and we have 8:08. We're out of public. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you for coming.